We can make a choice, whether it is to be a millionaire, multimillionaire, or whatever it happens to be. And with that single decision, we create a domino effect in our brain. By making the decision, we kick the first domino. We start to do things differently. We start to think differently. We start to get better results, all because we made a decision.
Hi everyone, welcome to Go In Show here on ABC 15. My name is Stant. I'm your host, and again today I'm super honored and super pumped and excited to introduce you to my very special guest today, Dr. Joe Vitale. He is a mentor, spiritual teacher, authors for I can't keep up for how many books you wrote, and you have like over 15 or something albums, right? And you're known for from the movie The Secret. I have been your big fan for a long time, and I want to tell you, I want to call you guru, because the word guru is mean the one who removed the darkness inside you, and you remove that darkness inside me.
Oh, wow.
Gu is the darkness, and Ru is the remover. And Dr. Joe, what you have done is remove the darkness for many people. I don't want to cry right now.
Me too. Me too. Thank you. I feel that. I take it in. I'm almost speechless. So what a way to begin the interview, making me speechless.
That's how I begin. I feel like so warm. The heat just ran through, the energy just ran through right now. So a few weeks ago, I interviewed Brian Tracy, and we were talking about the secret of self-made millionaire. And Brian said, in order to be the millionaire, you need to first thing made the decision, right? Made the decision you're going to be. I know you were homeless, and you get back up and establish yourself and help so many people. What is that moment when you were homeless and you made that decision that I'm not doing this anymore? Like, what made you make that decision?
I was living in the Dallas, Texas Public Library in the late 1970s. That's where I was homeless. On one level, it was great because they had a bathroom, they had water, they had air conditioning, and they had books. I've always been a book addict. You can see from my background, that's not a green screen. Those are real books. This is part of my office and part of my collection. So I love books, and I was devouring books even then in the 1970s. And I was reading the self-help books, Think and Grow Rich, The Magic of Believing, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the great success literature. And all of it kept saying what Brian Tracy was saying, is that you have to make a decision, and to use your terms, you have to be all in. You have to go all in. There is no second guessing. There's no plan B. There's no surrender. There's no giving up. You have a goal, and you're going to go for that goal. And I made a firm decision that I was changing the inside of me. I had a realization that my beliefs were not serving me. I discovered what they were. I changed my beliefs, and I went full steam ahead. I didn't mean I'm an overnight success, right? But I went with the idea that I'm not taking any prisoners. I'm going until I achieve this goal or die trying.
I love it. It's resonated with me very much because, Dr. Joe, this year I made the decision that I'm going to be a millionaire. I never made this decision before.
Right.
I didn't know that to become a millionaire or to become a wealthy or have the financial freedom is connecting so much from the inside, from spirit, from the energy in you. And I didn't know. My parents didn't teach me. They taught me, go to school, get a good job, be the employee, right? 9 to 5 job. And that's it. And make, some money.
Well, none of our parents are taught this. Maybe the kids today might be a little luckier because their parents might be a little more aware. But my parents in the 1950s, when they're having kids, they were not taught goal setting. They were not taught the power of the mind. They were not taught how to set intentions. They were not taught about persistence. They were taught to go to work, to raise the family, to struggle, surrender, and survive. It was more survival training than prosperity training.
Yeah.
So I, like you, like so many other people, including the people watching you, are all in a great moment because now we can choose. We have the conscious awareness that we need to make a choice. And so we can make a choice, whether it is to be a millionaire, multimillionaire, or whatever it happens to be. And with that single decision, we create a domino effect in our brain. By making the decision, we kick the first domino, and that first domino goes to the next one and the next one. And there's a bit of a chain reaction. We start to do things differently. We start to think differently. We start to get better results, all because we made a decision. But most of us didn't grow up hearing that. We had to tune into something like this, or in my case, in the 1970s, I had to read the right books.
Yeah. And I mean, COVID hit last year. And I even have to like reset my mind because I was in the scarcity mode, in the victim mode, you know, and I thought I'm the only one who suffered from this, but I'm not, you know, and I have to change. But help us here, Dr. Joe, like there's a goal right here. There's the energy and spiritual, you know, process right here. How can we like tune in and connect? What action do we need to take? Or who do we need to become?
Right. Well, it's great questions. These are the things we need to look at. The very fundamental first step for me is we have to look inside at two key things. The first is, how do we feel about money? Now, most people are going to go, I like money, give me more money. But really, how do we feel about money? If I begin a statement right now, a statement that I have found every country, every culture has this in their subconscious mind, every one of them. Money is the root of all.
Yeah.
And they all said evil.
Right.
They all said evil. When I'm in Russia, they'll say evil. When I'm in Poland, I was in Iran before COVID. And even there, they're like, money is the root of all evil. So stop and think about this. If we choose to be a millionaire or multimillionaire, or just to be more successful than what we have been, which are worthy goals, they're worthy intentions, they're positive. But in our subconscious mind, if we think money's bad, or we think money's evil, or we think money will corrupt us, we will not allow it into our lives. We will block it. We will abort. We will self-sabotage. And then we'll end up going, well, it's Joe Vitale. He lied to us. Or it's the movie The Secret. That law of attraction isn't really real. Right. And we'll start pointing fingers all over the place to go, see, none of this stuff works. All of this stuff works. We know the success literature works. We know decisions work. We know The Secret works. We know the law of attraction works. What gets in the way is our unconsciousness. So the very first thing we have to look at is, how do we feel about money?
Okay.
If people still think money's bad or evil or corrupting, that they need to look at that. I've written lots of books, from Attract Money Now to Money Loves Speed to The Awakened Millionaire. All of these books are my offerings to help people clear up their negativity. So I can tell you very quickly, money to me is like this pen. This pen, is this pen bad? Is this pen evil? No, it's a pen. But I can take it, I could probably stab somebody with it. That'd be bad, that'd be evil. I can probably write a check to you, or I can probably write the great American novel. I can write a song. I can write a manifesto that maybe awakens the world. Is it the pen, or is it me?
Right.
Obviously the pen's nothing. The pen's a pen. It's neutral. Money is the same way. We get to use money in however we consciously choose to do it. I think money is a wonderful tool for fulfilling our dreams, our life mission, and making a difference in the world. If you really care about pockets of humanity or homelessness or schools being needed in Africa or some other country, then make peace with money. And when money comes to you, direct it where you think it would do the most good. So that's the first level, is making peace with money. Money's neutral. That's it. Money's neutral. It's a tool. The second thing to look at is our relationship with ourselves. Most of us don't feel we're good enough. Most of us don't feel we're worthy of good things. So even if we decide, hey, money is actually good, and so I would like to have it come into my life because I'm going to do good things with it. I'm going to give it to my family, friends, neighbors, causes I believe in.
Yes.
I'll fulfill my dreams. I'll feed the homeless, whatever it happens to be. However, if you don't think you're worthy, you will also sabotage, block, and prevent money from coming to you. In fact, you'll prevent anything that you consider to be good coming to you because you don't think you're good enough.
Right.
When I was homeless, anybody who is homeless or has been homeless knows that your self-esteem is flatlined.
Sure.
It is not there anymore. I do know I had my hope. I wanted to be an author, but my God, I was suicidal. I was miserable. I was in the dark night, as they call it, of the soul, and it was not pleasant. So I had to rebuild my self-image, and there's ways to do that. Part of it is just looking in the mirror and finding what you like and what you love about yourself. And dwelling on that long enough that you start to well up with true appreciation. And I'm not talking about an ego trip here. I'm talking about nurturing yourself. I'm talking about respecting yourself. I'm talking about finding the value in your life because you are alive. So the short answer is, when we make peace with money and we make peace with our own self-worth, now we can allow those decisions to take effect. Now we can say, I'm going to be more successful. I'm going to have a great business, or I'm going to be a multimillionaire, whatever it happens to be. We will have deleted the invisible blocks that were preventing us beforehand.
How to delete that?
That's you're good. You were immediately there with that question. It's like, how do you delete that? Which is the $1 million question. And I will tell you, it's the cornerstone of my work, because I think it's fairly easy for people to decide on what they want. Some people will say, I don't know what I want, but with a little bit of encouragement, they can select it. And some people can be encouraged to start to appreciate money and start to appreciate themselves. But then they get to the point where it's like, how do I get rid of the negative beliefs? Whether the negative beliefs is about myself or the future or the economy or other people, how do I get rid of it? And my work has always been, in the last 20 years, on helping people get clear.
Okay.
Get clear means getting clear of the negativity, getting clear of the invisible blocks, getting clear of the paradigms, the mindsets, the self-sabotage. So to answer your question, how do you get rid of it? There's lots of tools.
Sure.
One of the first one is awareness. When you get to watch a show like this, you are doing a great service to people, more than what you may realize. Because the people who tune in to see you, watch you, and hear you might be hearing concepts for the very first time in their entire life. They could be sitting there going, that's right, my parents never taught prosperity. And it's nothing bad about your parents. Nobody taught them.
Exactly.
They're very innocent. So there's nothing about blame here. There's nothing about guilt here. There's nothing about pointing fingers here. But it is about awakening. And awareness alone. When you watch a show like yours, you say the right thing, I say the right thing, and people start thinking differently. They go, oh, I didn't know I could make a decision. Oh, I didn't know I felt that way about money. Oh, I didn't know that maybe I didn't appreciate myself as well as I could. And with that awareness alone, they can change. The awareness kind of just pops the bubble of the black cloud, the dark cloud, and suddenly the light comes in. We turned on the light. So that's the very first thing. The second thing is to question beliefs. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's the Socratic method. Socrates taught all of his pupils to do it. And it's basically questioning the beliefs that surface. For example, sometimes people will tell me they're ready for their soulmate. They really want to find their life partner. And then they'll say something like, but all the good ones are taken. Okay, the very first thought is the statement, all the good ones are taken, is a belief.
Yeah.
It's a limiting belief. As long as you hold that belief, you're not going to try to meet anybody. Or if you do, you're going to find some fault in him or her, because you're going to find all the good ones are taken. So there must be something wrong with this one, all because of a belief. So I say, question the beliefs. All the good ones are taken. Is it true? There are, the last I heard, almost 8 billion people on the planet. That is a pretty big crowd to draw from. Surely there's a match within 8 billion people. All the good ones are not taken. It is an impossibility. They could not have all been taken. So the availability of a match for you is alive and well. So the second thing I would be doing is questioning beliefs. The third thing, and believe me, I got a whole roster of things. So depending on how long you want to go, this whole interview could be about clarity. But I don't want to hog the show, so to speak. I know you have other questions. Another one is tapping, the emotional freedom techniques.
Right.
I first learned it from the man who invented it. It was thought field therapy by Roger Callahan. And Roger Callahan found out that if you tapped on acupuncture points around your body, and there's thousands of acupuncture points, but he found that if you tapped on specific ones while you were thinking of a belief or a problem, you actually dissolved the belief or the problem. And I interviewed Roger Callahan. He's gone now, and his method evolved into EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques. It's still tapping, but there's lots of people teaching it. There's lots of books on it. Anybody interested can simply go to Google or to YouTube, type in EFT tapping for getting rid of limiting beliefs, and there'll be hundreds of videos. One partner of mine, Brad Yates, already has maybe 1,000 videos, all free on YouTube. So another thing people can do is tap it. And then I'll quickly mention, even though it requires its own show, is a Hawaiian healing technique called Ho'oponopono. And Ho'oponopono has been blowing the minds of people ever since I wrote the first book about it in 2005 called Zero Limits.
Well, Dr. Joe, I'm sorry, I listened to The Miracle and you're talking about this method. And so question very quick, how long does it take for it to work? You know, when we say, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, like how long does it take? Is it happen right away, or does it take a while for the mind to start to change, or what is it?
Yeah, those are great questions. Well, first of all, for the people who don't know, you were referring to my book called The Miracle. So I have a book called The Miracle, and I guess you were listening to the audio version of it. And in it, I talk about clearing techniques from tapping to belief questioning to getting a miracles coach. I have a coaching program, miraclescoaching.com. And I talk about Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono consists of the 4 phrases you're talking about, and I'm kind of backtracking for people who don't know what we're talking about. And the 4 phrases are, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. It's that simple. You're saying them inside yourself to your connection to a higher power. Some people will call that God.
Right.
I just reread Napoleon Hill because I was filmed for a movie about him. And in his book, Think and Grow Rich, he called it infinite intelligence. And I kind of like the phrase. So you say the 4 phrases to infinite intelligence. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And what you're doing is trying to dissolve the belief, the block, the limitation that you're feeling or perceiving. So for how long it takes, I think that is as unique as each person and each situation. Sometimes it takes as long as somebody believes it'll take. If somebody says, well, I'm going to say the 4 phrases, and because I believe Dr. Joe, and I believe the story, and I read Zero Limits and whatever else, I believe it can happen in an hour. It probably would happen in an hour because of their belief. Wasn't it Jesus in the Bible who said, as you believe, it will become so? It is more a matter of where our belief is. I don't want to put time limits on it. In actuality, when you practice Ho'oponopono, you should be doing it nonstop forever. Because how hard is it to say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, inside yourself as you're going about your day? I'm doing it right now. It's the background audio in my head. I used to say audio tape in my head, but you know, we don't have cassette players anymore. So it's the digital audio in my brain. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. That's a mouthful. We just covered a whole lot. So you give a lot to your listeners and viewers, that's for sure.
Well, first of all, for myself, because I know when I make the decision that I'm gonna be wealthy and have a financial freedom, I mean, I came from the third world country. I never have that. You know, my parents do struggle with their money story, and I later on I just learned that it's affect me like energy wise. You know, it's
Yes.
affect me so much, and now I just have to clean up. You know?
Yes.
And
And we all do. We all have a story. I got to tell you a quick story. You probably already know the story because of I've been to Thailand twice. And the young man who brought me over there, when he first brought me, he was 35 years old. So I guess he's 37 years old now. And he met me at the airport and he told me the most phenomenal story. And this, you know, I just traveled from Texas in America, going to the other side of the world. So I'm tired. And I've been on numerous flights and trying to sleep on planes for 20 hours at a time. And he meets me at the airport, and his story was so invigorating. I was hypnotized. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't blink. And he said 20 years previously, he had been homeless.
Yep.
Now, 20 years previously, he would have been like 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there, about the age of 20. He was homeless. He was sleeping on the beaches of Thailand. Yep. He had nothing.
Yep.
No car, nothing. And I want people to hear this because a lot of people who are skeptical when we talk about miracles and changing beliefs and this, that, and the other need to hear a story like this. It's one thing for me to say, yeah, I was homeless and now I live the lifestyle of the rich and famous. But when you hear a story of a youth who's 20, who's sleeping on the beaches of Thailand and he is starving.
Yep.
So he calls a friend of his and says, I need help.
Yep.
He says, can you send me money? And his friend said, no, I'm not going to send you any money. He says, but I'll send you a book. Stop right there. If that had happened to me, I'd be upset. He's like, you're a friend of mine and you're not going to send me any money, but you're going to send me a book? I don't want a book. I want money. I need money. Well, his friend sent him a book. And the book was The Secret, which was what the movie The Secret was about. The law of attraction, visualization, creating your own reality. And so my little Thailand friend, who's 20 years old and homeless, now has a book called The Secret. And he's mad. He's upset. He's hungry. He's starving. He's on the beach. And he says, I'm going to read this book and I'm going to prove it wrong. Consider, I'm going to prove it wrong. So he reads the book and he hears about making a decision, very thing you were talking about. He hears about going all in, the very thing your show represents. He hears about visualization and belief and imagery, and he doesn't believe any of it, but he has enough belief to try it on a cup of coffee. He says, let me see if this nonsense will manifest a cup of coffee. Later the day, somebody buys him coffee.
Right.
Well, he thinks that's a fluke. And he says, well, let me try it on lunch. So he visualizes, he makes the decision, he does all the stuff in the book, The Secret, and somebody buys him lunch.
Yep.
Now he's starting to believe, and he says, well, let me try it on getting a part-time job. He gets a part-time job. Let me try it on getting an apartment. He gets an apartment. The long story short, when I met him 15 or so years later after this incident I just described, he's 35, 36 years old. He is a billionaire, not a millionaire, not a multimillionaire, a billionaire. He runs and still runs one of the largest real estate businesses in southern Thailand. And he has 20 other businesses, from coffee shops to an attorney's studio to a gym. And he's doing almost all of it from his phone. And he contributes it all to what you and I are talking about. These principles work. They work for me, they work for you, they work for him. His name is Andres Pira. And I so loved his story, I arranged to be his co-author, and we wrote the book, Homeless to Billionaire. Homeless to Billionaire. People need to go read that book to find out, I don't care who you are, where you are, you can lift yourself up, you can do the work, and you can transform in the most dramatic, unforgettable Hollywood movie kind of a way.
We live in the Hollywood movie every day in our mind. It's just like that. Yeah. Right. So when you arrived Thailand, like he invited you to speak at the event, right? But you didn't know his story before that he watched it.
No, I knew nothing about him. All I knew was this man wanted me to come to Thailand. He wanted to pay first class travel. He was willing to put me up. He actually even offered me an extra week after the event in Phuket as his guest.
Yeah.
And I didn't know him. I almost said no. But because everything was falling into place, then I have a green light theory where I say where everything is turning on, it looks like they're green lights, just keep going with the green lights. So everything was saying, yes, go, yes, go. I did not know him. I had heard, because he tried to tell me through my assistant at the time, that he owed me a lot. He said that I changed his life. Well, I hear that all the time, so I didn't know what it meant. So when I got there, I met this young man, good looking, athletic, robust. He was very humble. He gave me a big hug, and he picked up my baggage and everything, put me in the car. Then he started telling me his story. And that's where I heard it for the first time. And in fact, to extend this, I told him, your story is so dramatic and so inspiring. You need to get on stage and tell it. And he said, I've never been on stage. And I said, this is your event. You're putting this event on. You flew me over, carve out 15 minutes, and you go on stage and tell your story. And he ended up telling it. And then afterwards, I said, it needs to be a book. Don't stop here.
My goodness. Yeah, I listened to his book, you guys' audio book,
Yes.
Long time ago, because the title of the book is very grabbing my attention.
And it's true. Homeless to billionaire.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, let me read and I'm going to prove it. I mean, yes, I never been a homeless, but I travel far away from Thailand to here. I just feel like this is a triangle because like Andrea there, I'm from there originally, and you here, and now we're talking about that same place. Like I visualize, I live in the south of Thailand, close to Phuket, and it just, Dr. Joe, I feel like my life and our life is part of a bigger plan. And this is not an accident. Lisa reached out to me, and let me tell you this. She sent me on Facebook Messenger, and she saw my post that I interview Brian Tracy. So she said, congratulations for Brian Tracy. Well, my life partner, he wrote over 80 books. He's been on the movie The Secret. He is Dr. Joe Vitale. Would you like to interview him? And that's all. And Dr. Joe, I sit in the car and I was crying.
Aww.
Because I never thought, again, this is my story, right? I never thought that someone from third world country like me would get to talk to someone like you, the guru. I know you're famous and well-known and successful, but to talk to guru, it's not easy to find that guru. Thank you for all your work that you do.
Well, you are welcome. But what I want to point out is you're the one doing the work. You're the one working on yourself. You're the one that's putting together a show. You're the one that's showing up. And apparently you're all in. So you're making this happen. I do know the feeling. And I think this is something that your viewers need to really hear. You're sitting there saying that you can remember yourself being from Thailand. You can remember your struggle. You can even talk about your parents having still a bit of a struggle with their story. Well, when I look at myself and people like you say, oh, you're famous and you've written all these books and all this stuff, there's a part of me that goes, I'm just the kid who came from Ohio, who stayed in the Midwest. My family's all up there, and a part of me is like, how did I do this? Part of me is surprised, and I want people to hear it, because I don't care where they're sitting, what their current circumstances are, what their current beliefs are. When you make a decision and you start doing the work of clearing beliefs, the work of taking action, the work of momentum, keep going forward, and keeping the philosophy that you have about being all in, you can be in a completely different place in a very short amount of time. So it can happen to anybody watching this if they go and make the decision and go all in. I'm not unique. You're not unique. In our own ways, we are, yes, of course. But whether Andres being homeless and now a billionaire, or you being feeling how you are from Thailand and having your own show. And me being my God, I was insecure, awkward, shy as a kid. I met somebody who knew me in high school. I met her 40 years after high school. And I was curious. I said, what do you remember from me, about me? And she said, I don't think I ever heard you say a word, ever. That's how insecure. And now look at me. You can't shut me up.
I love it. Yeah. So here's another question. All right. Manifestation, changing the belief, meditation and clean up energy. It would not work though if you don't take action, right? Otherwise, Buddhist monk will become the billionaire too, because they meditate all day. I mean, I have my uncle, my family member, who's like, make a commitment. He's gonna be Buddhist monk like for the rest of his life. He left his family just like Buddha, and then he become the Buddhist monk. But of course, he doesn't want to be a millionaire. But if you just work, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, right? If you just work on yourself and story and belief, but not really take the action that you're supposed to, how does that work?
You have to take action. There is no way around it. Yeah. Life is a co-creation, meaning you have your part to play in the evolution of life itself. For example, I said I wanted to be an author. If all I did was visualize writing books, meditate about being creative, kept talking about it, but never writing, you'd never know me. I'd never have a book. But because I get an idea, I go to the typewriter in the old days. Today I go to the computer, and I have 80 books. I've written 80 books. My first book was in 1984. If somebody had said, hey, you're going to write 80 more or 79 more, I would have thought, no, I'm not. I don't have that many in me. But you keep taking action. And then at some point, decades later, you look back and go, oh, wow, look what I did. I'm a musician.
Yes.
I dreamed about making music. I dreamed and visualized and thought about writing songs or getting on stage and performing. I didn't do it. Nothing happened until I took action. Now I have 15 albums. I performed on stage. My music is in soundtracks to movies. I was just filmed for this Napoleon Hill movie I mentioned, and they're going to use one of my songs within the movie. Two of my songs were nominated for the Posy Award, which is the Grammys of popular music. You don't get any of the results unless you take action. Everything requires something from you. Even the person that you said wants to be a Buddhist monk, their action is meditating.
Yeah.
If that's what they want to do, part of what they need to do is go meditate. If somebody said, I want to be a Buddhist monk, but they sat in front of the TV drinking beer and watching cartoons, it would never happen.
Right.
They have to go to whatever that vocation is. So this is true for each one of us. Jack Canfield pointed out a long time ago that the word attraction in the phrase law of attraction has the word action right in it. There's a major hint. You have to take action. It doesn't have to be horrible action, action that is repulsive, but there is an action that is stemming from your desire that actually should be welcomed in your life because it's part of what will create your desire. So action, fundamentally a requirement.
I love it. I never thought about the word attraction had the word action in it.
Yes.
Wow. So a few more. I love talking to you. Sorry, a few more.
No, I love your questions.
So the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Is, when we got beat up so much from the past, the story, the relationship, how can we get out and really, like following the light?
Yeah. Well, that's an important question. And I have made an agreement with myself and God that I'm being as transparent as possible so I can be as helpful as possible.
Okay.
So here's the behind the scenes story. The last 2 years have been pretty much the worst of my entire life. And you've already heard that I was homeless and I was in poverty. So what could be worse than that? Well, for the last 2 years, I went through a divorce. And the divorce I thought would be easy and effortless and over quick because I was basically giving everything away. I was just going to walk. But instead, it became a persecution of my life and business. And you're talking about the most excruciating, emotional, and expensive drain of my life and business. And it was tough every single day to get up and put on a happy face, still do a lot of what I do, interviews, making Instagram videos. And then when I'm done with the interview or the Instagram video, falling into the darkness and trying to find my way out. Plus, I was in a world I didn't know. The divorce system, the court system, none of that made sense to me. And I felt like a victim throughout it. So I'm being very open here.
Yeah.
Through all of that, my father dies, my best friend dies, a family member attempts suicide. I develop a new relationship with Lisa, who you interviewed, Lisa Winston, and she developed Lyme disease and pretty much was on her deathbed during the time that I am divorcing, going through this hell, and I am becoming her life raft, her caretaker during this time. And I move into our 1-bedroom apartment. So there's 2 people going through this terrible dark night. And COVID hits.
Yeah.
COVID affects everybody in different ways. For me, it wiped out all my travels and my biggest income. As I mentioned earlier, I went to Russia, I went to Ukraine. I was right before COVID was in Iran. And all of it stopped. Dead stop.
Yeah.
So no income, no travel, no speaking engagements. Everything moves to what we're doing now, Zoom and Skype kind of interviews. So you're talking about a 2-year dark night. So what did I do? All right. First of all, I did everything I was talking about earlier. I'm questioning beliefs. I'm looking at my own self-worth. I'm trying to take care of me. Also, I'm not afraid to ask for help. I've gone to counselors and healers that have known me for decades. And I said, I'm having trouble on my own. I'm raising my hand because I'm asking for help. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. When we get pushed into a corner, sometimes we need to go and ask somebody to send a life raft or a lifeboat. And I remember, and this is the big one that I want people to get. I remember asking one of my attorneys, I said, I'm having a tough time. I said, this world is unpredictable and it seems like it's controlled by the jury system that doesn't make any sense to me. And everything because of COVID is being done online. Even trials are being done online. They're not being done in the courtroom. And I said, what is the best advice you heard for somebody going through this darkness? What is the best advice? And he thought for a minute and then he said, and this is the takeaway, he said, focus on the future. Focus on the future. Every day you get up and you got to do whatever that day requires. But as you're taking care of it, you're thinking, okay, where am I going next? What kind of life do I want to have with Lisa? Where do we want to live? What kind of home do we want to have? What books am I going to be coming out with once the dust is cleared? When COVID is done, where am I going to go with my travels? What country do I want to speak at next? What can I do right now that would help create this future that I'm creating in my mind first? So the big takeaway, and believe me, I got lots to say about getting through a dark night, but I would say the big takeaway for right now is focus on the future.
Thank you so much for being so open and share with us again. From your heart, from the deep heart of your heart. Wow.
Yes.
If Dr. Joe facing the dark night of the soul and being in that for 2 years and get out, we can get out too. So
let me say something about this that I think will be of use to people watching, listening to this.
Okay.
When people first get involved with the law of attraction, they watch the movie The Secret, they read one of my books, Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor, John Assaraf, there's a whole long line of books and people doing great things. And so when they first hear about it, they get excited And they get excited. It's like, oh, I can create my life. I can create being a millionaire. I can create having my relationship. I can create better health. I can create the house, the business, blah, blah, blah. And on it goes. But here's the thing. They expect everything to happen easily, effortlessly, with no struggle. Right. And as soon as there's a day or a moment when it rains, they'll say, I give up. This doesn't work.
Right.
The secret's wrong. Law of attraction's wrong. Andre's, Joe, everybody is wrong. And so what I want to remind people is there will be days where it rains.
Yep.
There will be days when there might be an earthquake. There will be days when the sun is out for a very long time. And what we have to realize is we are in the human experience. I look at it as kind of a roller coaster, is that there'll be days when you're just shooting straight up and boy, it's exhilarating. But then as you get to the other side, it's going to drop a little bit. And when it drops, if you don't realize it's a temporary, momentary drop, you can fall victim to thinking this is how it's always going to be. But you stay in your seat and the cycle comes back around. I have found that the easiest thing to do is fasten your seatbelt and stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. Moment by moment, all is well. Even when I went to court, even when I was going through a divorce, if I would just breathe and bring myself into this moment and say, are you okay? I go, yeah, I'm all right. I don't really want to be here, but I'm okay. And in every moment, you're okay. And so if we can remind ourselves that there's going to be days when there's bumps in the road. And if you wake up one day and things aren't quite going right, all that means is it's one of those days. It's going to pass. Yep. And when you realize it's going to pass, it makes it easier to get through it. In fact, you can probably even turn it into something fun or something good. Let me say one more thing.
Yes.
As you can tell, I'm no longer the high school kid who can't speak.
Yes.
I'm the 67-year-old adult who has a lot to say. Stoicism helped me through those 2 years, Stoicism. And one of my favorite Stoics was Seneca. And Seneca has this quote that I absolutely fell in love with. He said, it's all in your head. You have the ability to make things seem hard or easy or even amusing. It's all up to you. When I saw that quote, I studied it and I realized he said the word seem. You have the ability to make things seem hard or easy or even amusing. He wasn't dismissing whatever somebody's going through. When I was going through their divorce and it was totally unpleasant and hellish, he wasn't saying that's a bad experience or you're not going through that experience. What he was saying is how I looked at it is up to me. I could look at it and go, man, it's hard. And that seems to be the default for most of us. We look and go, yeah, it's hard. But he was reminding me, you could look at it and go, it's easy. It's easy. Just entertaining the thought that it's easy can make it a little easier. And then there's the line, it could even be amusing. I thought, how do you make this amusing? And then I was watching Jerry Seinfeld on Netflix, and Jerry Seinfeld lives for the joke. There's nothing sacred to him. If he can get a laugh, he goes for it. And including death, including divorce. And I thought, well, I guess if I thought like Jerry Seinfeld, I'd find the amusing in this too. So that's a big reminder that life does have ups and downs. It's part of the human experience. You know, there's nothing guaranteed here, but we can make things easier with our attitude. We can make it hard or easy or even amusing.
Yeah. So you've been from the homeless to the darkness of your soul until now. So in the and then focus in the future. From now on, what is your legacy look like? This is my last question. What is your legacy look like, Dr. Joe?
That is a wonderful question. I love your genuine questions and your heartfelt desire to help people by pulling the best out of your guests. As much as I've done a lot of different things, and there's so many other things we can talk about, I think of myself as an author. And as much as I've written 80 some books, the author in me really wants to write the humdinger, the one that is my magnum opus, the one that lives forever, the one that stands as my testament to life and my contribution to the well-being of the planet, the one that represents my legacy. So that people, after I'm gone, they'll say, you know, he was in a lot of movies, he wrote a lot of books, he made a lot of music, but he wrote this one book, and that's the book you got to read.
Okay. My heart just so full of gratitude, and miracle happen every day. Just like you said, miracle happen, and this is my miracle today. And this is our miracle for our viewer, our listener, our audience here. Dr. Joe Vitale, thank you so much for being here on this planet and help us experience this life. I cannot wait to read the book that you're talking about, Dr. Joe.
Me too. Yeah. Thank you. You're doing incredible work. Godspeed to you and all your listeners. It's been an honor and a treat to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.